It's been a hot minute since we talked about zombies, but here we are. So this is a Bystial tuning zombie deck that I decided to bring in the ranked. Zombies are in a bit of a better position right now than they have been, considering the fact that the shufflers are down in popularity, tier is down in popularity, Bystials in general are also down in popularity. So a lot of the graveyard hate that zombies was struggling with has been removed. Now this is fairly different to many of the zombie lists you've probably seen out there, because we're not really reliant upon our Unizombie. That's not the sort of core of the deck, that's not the central part. The main sort of center of the deck is going to be more around the Bystials alongside Shinobi Necro, as well as having a Ballardrock zombie world sort of setup. So we're changing the focus of the deck, sort of again, doing what we normally do, in trying to strip away all of the nonsense that people attach to these decks and call the quote-unquote core. Right? People say like, oh, the core of a zombie deck is all of these random one-ofs and everything, and like that's just not good. So we're taking the best parts of zombies, which is the field spell, which is Ballardrock, which is Banshee, and we've got the one-of Unizombie because it's a really good hit off of like the zombie vampire or the chaos ruler if you still have a normal summon, but it's really not a good starter. So we are playing it at 1 and no more than 1. Now, is this deck perfect? You could probably make a few modifications to it. This sort of rough gameplay that we were going through. I'm not going to sit and pretend I spent hours and hours and hours and hours building this, but it was an absolute blast, and we had some fantastic replays, honestly. It was a ton of fun. So we're going to get in, show off a few replays so you can generally see how the deck works. It works like a generic, almost generic sort of punk synchro deck, except it's abusing the Shinobi Necro more, and then you've also got some zombie world shenanigans in there. Ballardrock being a super powerful monster, plus Ballardrock and Vampire Sucker being your inherent out to the Pearly Noir. Things like that. Lots of different possibilities that you can abuse. So if you're interested in content like this, absolutely subscribe and like the video. And if you want to show a little bit of extra support, you can of course also join as a member using the join button below or the link in the description. We also have our Discord. Hop into the Discord if you want to get more involved in the making of videos. And I'll be doing a card for card profile about this deck at the end of the video, so stick around for that. But first, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into game 1 here. We are going to be going second, which is interesting. Now this is, right, this is unironically playing against Dragoonities, right? And I know what you're thinking, Dragoonity not a top tier strategy, but just look at this guy's deck. The combo he pulls off, the end board, everything about this guy's deck is magnificent. We are 100% going to be visiting Dragoonity in the near-ish future. I am planning a vacation very soon, so I'm not going to be here for much longer. This video is recorded on the 12th. You're not seeing this until way later. But either way, they're going to go for Dragoonity Cineris, then dropping a card from deck to grave to equip the Kaus from the deck. Kaus then special summons itself and allows a synchro summon into the Gay Durg. Gay Durg then once per turn, and that definitely comes up, is going to grab and drop the Mist Valley Baby Rock, which then immediately special summons itself and is level 2 tuner. That's pretty powerful, allowing him to go into Dragoonity Knight Romulus. Romulus then on summon's going to grab and then the Dragoonity Glow. Glow then activating. Glow is pretty nuts as well. Going to add back a level 5 Dragoonity from the graveyard to the hand, as well as having an additional effect they're going to abuse later. Going to summon it the Armagram, re-equipping from the graveyard the Gay Durg. Then they're going to use Dragoonity Glow to re-summon the Gay Durg from the spell trap zone, using its effect yet again, adding and discarding a Zephyros. Now we're going to exceed 2 into Attempt. Attempt's pretty powerful, lets you detach a material, special summon the Samsara Dragon directly from the deck, using these two to go into the Hieratic Seal. Now they're going to use Samsara, banishing it from the graveyard, adding Mystelion, then they're going to tribute summon the Mystelion immediately, using the Hieratic Seals, which when tributed will activate its effect to summon a dragon from deck. Mystelion, of course, activating to grab the Kaus back from the graveyard. Again, not once per turn. This deck's got a little bit of Pearly syndrome where half the cards aren't once per turn, right? Or at least are soft once per turns. Like this. All of these cards, soft once per turns. We've got the Black Metal Dragon bringing back Gay Durg yet again, but took it back to hand to bring out the Zephyros. Then we got Gay Durg grabbing Legatus from the deck. We're gonna drop the Dark Metal Dragon to the graveyard. Kaus summoning itself to the field. Going to use Dragoonity Divine Lance. Going to use its effect to equip on a Phalanx directly from the deck, using these two to synchro summon into the Borreload Savage Dragon. Something worth noting is that while Kaus can treat itself both as a level 2 and level 4 monster for a synchro summon, it cannot be used in a synchro summon for anything other than a Dragoonity monster, which does mandate the usage of the Phalanx as a generic level 2 tuner. So we're going to go for the Borreload here. Borreload equipping on the Romulus from the grave, giving itself some counters. Going to go into the Barcha here. Barcha then equipping up to 3, or any number, sorry, of dragons from the graveyard onto itself. Grabbing Phalanx and the Kaus, which could both be resummoned, going into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Pretty awesome negate. Got 2 negates on board so far. Legatus bringing itself out. Going to synchro summon into another Barcha, which, you guessed it, is also not once per turn. Going to equip on a bunch of cards from the graveyard. Phalanx and Kaus yet again summoning out the Phalanx. Going to Exceed summon into the Hope Harbinger. And this is pretty damn impressive. Then we got the Armogram coming out. Going to banish 2, summon the Armogram. And then we're going to use these 2 to link off into another copy of the Hieratic Seals. And pass turn. This is a pretty nuts board. Harbinger, Borreload, so we got the Spell Negate, Monster Negate, Omni Negate, Bounce, and Battle Protection. That's pretty damn good, especially considering Seals will replace itself with another monster from deck, potentially with a Search effect or anything else. So we're going to have to see what happens here. Into our turn, we're going to draw for turn, we draw the Ogre Dance. So this, look at our hand. This is a remarkably terrible hand, right? This, don't want to have this in hand, don't want to have this in hand. This doesn't do much by itself against a wind deck, right? I mean, his deck is wind, so Bystials don't do much. So this hand is just remarkably terrible, and the double Ogre Dance definitely doesn't help. But we're going to try and win anyway. So we're going to start off with an Ogre Dance. Basically, this guy's got so many negates that in my head, I'm thinking he's probably going to be a little trigger happy, right? So we go for the Ogre Dance first of all. Ogre Dance gets negated by the Crystal Wing. That's mistake number 1 from our opponent here. Our opponent should definitely have won this game. But we just try to play around it as much as possible. Activate Lebellion, grab the Drissworm, that's grand. We're going to go Drissworm here, banishing Darkness Metal from the graveyard, summoning itself. They're going to go for Seals now, bouncing Drissworm back. Very smart play, summoning out Remus from the deck here off of their Seals. We're now going to go for the Deer Note, baiting out the other negate. Again, Deer Note's a very important card for this deck, so I sort of figured it would cause him to use his negate, but luckily we got the Charcusai already. Charcusai fusing itself with the Ogre Dance remaining in our hand, going into the Rising Carp. At this stage, our opponent's only remaining interruption is a Spell Negate, which we do not care about. Going into Zeoman, going into the Deer Note, grabbing the Foxy Toon as a light monster to use later on in the turn. We're going to go Chaos Ruler directly from the deck, using its effect to mill the top 5 cards of the deck, searching for a light or dark among them. Using Deer Note then, of course, to grab back a level 8 monster from the graveyard. Back comes the Ogre Dance. We're going to reveal the top 5 of the deck. Unfortunately, here, I don't believe we hit anything. We hit nothing, right? Very unfortunate, but we do go into the Zombie Vampire here. Zombie Vampire going to activate its effect, detaching to mill an additional 4 cards from each, hitting a Magnamut from our graveyard, which is awesome. We're going to summon a Magnamut, banishing 2 for the Chaos Ruler. That is, of course, going to trigger the Shinobi Necro that we just banished to summon itself back to the field from the banish spell. We're going to tribute off the... and this is really cool here. We tribute off the Magnamut for the Bystial Lebellion. And you'll notice in the deck profile that we weren't playing Beast or Regained. I don't think. We might have been in this replay, but the primary reason as to why we're playing Lebellion is the fact that it's a light level 8, which means it works perfectly alongside our Shinobi Necro to facilitate the summoning of a full power Chaos Angel. We're going to tribute off the Chaos Ruler, popping one of his monsters here. Of course, Crystal Wing still has that battle effect, so we really want to get rid of this, but now we can use our 2 monsters to go into a full power Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel going to banish the Borreload from the field into the battle phase, taking out the Hope Harbinger and swinging in, taking out the Remus as well. So that is an absolutely banging turn from us there. We're going to grab the Bystial Baldric from the deck off our Magnamut. We've got 2 Bystials in hand. We have the Chaos Angel. We have the Zombie Vampire for follow-up. He's going to go for Ravine here, dropping Kaus to grab Senatus. Senatus then summoning out to the field. Remus then in the graveyard is going to summon itself. We're going to go for the Drissworm here, banishing their Hope Harbinger from the graveyard to summon itself. They bring out Remus. We're going to go for Branded Beast here. Branded Beast, tribute off the Drissworm, targeting Senatus, destroying it. Drissworm then getting rid of Remus. Armogram going to use its effect, banishing 2 to resummon itself to the field in defense, activating to negate our Chaos Angel, which does literally nothing. So that was a whole load of nothing there from our opponent. We draw the Quick Draw Synchron, activating the Zombie Vampire, detach, mill an additional 4 from each. Gonna summon out the Ballardrock from our graveyard, activating Baldric, banishing Shinobi Necro from our grave yet again, triggering it yet again, chaining that to that, of course, our Ballardrock to banish an opponent's monster from their field or graveyard, getting rid of Armogram for good. Shinobi Necro coming back. We kind of BM just a little bit here, going into the Assault, the Stardust Dragon, but we decided we're not going to do very much more. We're just going to swing for game. Very, very impressive board from our opponent. Do I feel like we had any right to win that? Probably not. A large part of that win came from the fact that our opponent really wasn't timing their negates too well. But the replay still does show off how a lot of the cards intertwine and intertangle. We didn't hit Zombie World, but we did hit some of the other zombie cards, and we're using them to the fullest extent possible. So I'm pretty happy with how that replay turned out, absolutely. And what an amazing deck to go up against. Unity really strutting its stuff here. Unfortunately, piloted by maybe someone who doesn't have the most confidence or the most meta-relevant knowledge when it comes to their opponents. But ultimately, he tried his best, and I can't fault him for that. Let's get into the next game. Alrighty, this one is a little bit quicker here. Playing a more aggressive hand, we're going to start with tuning here, grabbing the Assault Synchron, milling a Branded Beast from the top of the deck, which is the Great Mill. Using Foxy, I'm going to drop the Shinobi Necro, summoning out the Xiamen from the deck. Xiamen gets searching for the Sharkusai, normal summon the Sharkusai, using its effective fusion summon into the Rising Carp. Rising Carp then activating its effect, we're going to use it to summon out the Xiamen and the Deer Note from the deck. Synchro summoning, of course, into the Chaos Ruler. We're all very familiar with the Punk lanes by now on this channel. These are not new combos, we've done them before, so I'm not going to patronize everybody by re-educating, but we are going to be using the Chaos Ruler here, checking the top 5 of the deck. We actually hit 2 copies of Zombie World, very close to hitting all 3. That would have been a damn problem, but we do hit the Necro World Banshee, which is going to be useful. Summoning out the Assault Synchron, going to Synchro summon into Baron de Fleur to protect us from any hand traps that he might have. Of course, by this stage, you likely would have used a potential Nibiru, but honestly, I was seeing his his board was flashing, right? So I was just worried about something. We're going to bring out the Magnomet here. That's going to trigger off the Shinobi Necro, of course, as well as his own Search effect. And we're going to use these two to go into the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, which will bring back a level 2 tuner from the graveyard. There's the Assault Synchron. Going into now the Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf being a very, very powerful card. Going to banish 2 to bring out the Chaos Ruler once more. Now we've got a couple of options for what we could do here, but we decide the Zombie Vampire is, of course, going to be the best one, because who doesn't like more gas? We're going to go for the Necro World Banshee, activating Zombie World directly from the deck, detaching material to summon out the Unizombie directly from the grave. Shadow Beast and Sulliek both activating in the grave. We are going to hit that Sulliek with an Ash Blossom, though that is going to shut that down to at least some extent. Kelbeck activating, unfortunately, to hit our Unizombie to return it back to our hand, which does kind of suck, but our opponent realizes very, very quickly that Zombie World, Baron, Sprite Elf, all of these cards are going to be virtually impossible for a tier player to play through, especially Zombie World. So a large part of where Zombie World is going to come in is in particular matchups. It becomes very difficult for your opponent to essentially plan or link summon or sort of work their combos the way they want to in certain strategies. For example, Dragon Link not having dragons, that hurts pretty bad, right? Tearlaments not having their aquas hurts pretty bad. It's not something that stops every single deck. Like, for example, Sprite don't really give a shit about it, but it is definitely something that stops at least a handful of the top meta-relevant decks. And if even just that by itself is enough to stop it, never mind the crazy board you're about to establish, then it's definitely worth playing. You're just cutting down the number of cards that could potentially stop you, and I don't see any world in which that's a bad thing. But either way, let's get into the third game. Alrighty, getting into game 3 here. Into our first turn, bit of a weird hand, but it's fine. We're going to start off with Assault Synchron, sending Shinobi Necro off the top of the deck because we're the best player in the game. Tuning, grabbing ourselves a Quick Draw Synchron. This is going to be a lot better. Tuning is already a phenomenal card, and it's only going to get better with the release of Revelation Synchron. I've got something in my damn eye. But either way, milling the Deer Note hurts. It does hurt my damn feelings a little bit, but we don't exactly have a Punk line in hand, so we'll live. We're going to drop Lebellion, grabbing ourselves a little bit of a Magnomet using its effect. We're going to banish the Shinobi Necro from the graveyard, summoning it out to the field. Going to get Search in here. Shinobi Necro activating its effect. Going to resummon Shinobi Necro out to the field, of course. We're going to get Searching during the end phase, tributing off our Magnomet for the Bystial Lebellion. We're going to use now the Lebellion, playing Branded Regain. We fancy ourselves a little bit of advantage on this turn. Instead of going for the Branded Beast, is that a bad play? Mayhaps, but sue me. We're going to go into the Chaos Ruler now. Chaos Ruler going to mill 5 off the top of the deck, hopefully summoning a monster among them, or sorry, grabbing it from deck to hand. We grab a Saranir here, Saranir being a pretty decent card. The rest of those cards not really doing very much for us. Assault Synchron, special summoning out to the field, going to go into Baron de Fleur. That gives us protection against hand traps. We're going to go Saranir now, banishing the Baldric, I should say, normal summoning out Shinobi Necro to bring out the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, which will once again resummon the Necro to go into the Sprite Elf. Elf is pretty damn powerful. It can bring back Shinobi Necro once more. And using these two, we're now able to go into a full power Chaos Angel before sitting a card, a passing turn, and grabbing our Jerusalem. So right now, our Synchro monsters are unaffected by our opponent's activated effects. None of our monsters can be destroyed by battle. We have an Omni Negate here. We have a Bystial for banishment. We have Regained for follow-up. We have Crossout to stop any sort of potential hand traps or whatever it is. We're in a pretty solid spot. Except they got Lightning Storm. We're sort of forced to use Baron de Fleur to negate the Lightning Storm because it's like the only form of removal we're not protected from. Well, the only common form. Just enough to bait out the Evenly Matched, unfortunately banishing our entire field other than our Chaos Angel. But the Chaos Angel is not an easy card to get rid of in its own merit. They're going to go for Taya here. Taya banishing the Emergence from the graveyard to bring out a token. Now Taya and the token going into the Grand Master. Grand Master gets Searching, Taya get Milling. Now Sword Soul, of course, is a very, very powerful deck, but they don't exactly have a lot of great ways of getting rid of Chaos Angel. Now they're going to grab Sacred Summit to their hand here, which is a really, really cool strategy because they mill the Moyi off the Taya, then they bring back the Moyi off the Summit to go into an additional Synchro monster on top of the rest of their board. Very, very cool. Going into the Berserker, of course, drawing a card off Moyi, they're going to reveal the Strategist once again, dropping an additional Taya that they had in hand, bringing out the level 10 Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Cheng Ying. That is going to make us small, taking 1200 to the face. Here we are, 28, only barely matching even his weakest of monsters. However, we are indestructible by battle, so we are going to swing in. He's going to banish to try and, I don't know, like, banish us, I guess. I don't know what his plan was, but we are now too small to crash into the Shizao. We were a little bit nervous about playing into a potential blackout, but at this stage we sort of decided we either lose or we either guarantee a loss by not playing into it, or we might lose by playing into it. He was able to use the Draco Berserker. I sort of forgot that Berserker would actually even impact a Bystial in hand, so that was my bad. Banishing a couple of cards, going to make our Chaos Angel smaller and smaller. I guess he forgot that all of my monsters are protected from battle destruction and not just the Chaos Angel. Fucking himself over there. He definitely could have gotten some extra licks in, but either way, we kind of only have to turtle up. We draw into Zombie World, which is normally pretty damn good against Sword Soul, but unfortunately they've already got their board set up, so all we're really doing is waiting on them having the out. But they had the out the whole time. They just had Infinite Impermanence, which negates our battle protection. They take out the Chaos Angel, boosting up to 65, taking out the Shinobi Necro, 44 to the face for lethal. He had the out. What can I say? Lightning Storm in the Evenly Matched, in the Imperm. What do you want me to do? Sometimes it just be like that. Let's get into the deck profile. Zombies is a deck that we've covered quite a number of times on the channel. It is one of the original decks that I was learning back when I was trying to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! In earnest, back when I was playing Legacy of the Duelist once upon a time. And this is one of the very first decks that I picked up that introduced me to what it means to combo, right? Before this, Galaxy Eyes was a combo deck to me. Galaxy Eyes is not a combo deck. This is a mo-fucking combo deck, right? And it took Legacy of the Duelist to teach me that. Obviously, a lot of things are different, and the strategy has evolved quite significantly and changed quite significantly over the years. And this is what I believe the current version of Zombies that I like to play looks like. And it's a blast. I really like it. Would I maybe change a few things? Mayhaps. Although I do honestly really like the way it's structured. It feels super balanced. The only thing that strikes me sometimes is I sort of draw into quick draw more than I would like to. But like, again, he's a 1 of in a 50 card deck. At some point you're just going to have to accept that odds are in your favor, even if they don't seem like they are. I suppose you only really count all the times you do draw it instead of all the times you don't, so maybe I'm just being stupid. But yeah, honestly, everything in here I'm a really, really big fan of. Everything works. Tuning just works. Super Poly's broken. Zombie World and the Banshee are really strong. Ballardrock's really strong. Got a lot of extension and all of our level 2. It's just really, really good. There's no other way of putting it. It's just fantastic. So we're going to go through here card for card. It is a 50 card deck. We're going to quickly cover off the hand traps. First of all, we got that triple Maxi, you know it. Triple Ash here. We got the double call by, single cross out, and I believe that's actually it. We of course have the triple Super Poly. That's not so much a flex spot though. Super Poly is pretty much mandatory, right? We'll get the Super Poly in a moment, and maybe some of the changes I would make to better accommodate Super Poly, which I wasn't really playing, but I didn't draw into the card often enough for me to even really think about it too much. But either way, it's still definitely a ridiculously powerful board breaking tool. So that's your quote unquote flex spots. We got basically, what's that, 9, 12 spots. Go nuts. We are playing, so it's Bystial, P.U.N.K, Zombies, right? That's the easiest way to look at this. Let's take that one thing at a time. Let's talk about Bystial first. So in terms of Bystial count, we're running 1 of each of the level 6 dragons. 1 Magnomet, Saronir, Drissworm, and Baldrake. 2 Lebellion, 1 Beast, and 1 Regained. So of course all of the Bystial level 6s can special summon themselves by banishing a light or dark in either graveyard, which is really good. They all also have an effect on field. Magnomet will search a dragon during your end phase. Saronir will mill a branded card or a Bystial monster. Drissworm, when sent from field to grave, will send a special summon monster your opponent controls to the graveyard as well. And Baldrake allows you to banish a special summoned Ritual Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Link monster by tributing another light or dark monster that you control. All of which are very, very good effects. Definitely Magnomet and Drissworm take the cake though. We have the double Lebellion, which allows you to discard itself to grab another Bystial from deck to hand, making all of these cards more consistent. It also allows you to special summon itself from the hand or graveyard by tributing a level 6 or higher dark dragon. Now that's typically one of your Bystials, but it can also technically be the likes of the Chaos Ruler if you really need to tag out the attributes, which, you know, does happen on occasion. And lastly, its final effect allows you to take a branded continuous spell or trap and play it face up directly onto the field, straight from the deck. Normally that's going to be your branded Beast, sometimes your branded Regained. And what do these two cards do? Well, Branded Beast, so long as you control a Bystial monster, will allow you to tribute a dragon to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can also take a branded continuous spell or trap from your graveyard during your end phase and place it onto your field face up, which is why we normally activate it directly from the deck, because we can send this to grave off Saronir and replay it directly from the graveyard. And what does Regain do? Well, if a light or dark monster is ever banished, you can target one of the banished monsters, put it back in bottom of your deck, and draw 1. Nice little consistency card. Every little draw matters. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster while this card's in your field, you can bring back any Bystial monster from your graveyard, which is insane alongside Drissworm and Magnomet. It really does help you sort of keep your opponent's boards in check, make sure your resources are always topped up, and make sure you've got plenty of follow-up should you need it. And that is the Bystial package. The inherent synergy with the Bystial package falls to Shinobi Necro, which we're going to talk about when we're talking about zombies, but that is our Bystial package. In terms of our P.U.N.K package, we have the triple Xiamen, we have the 1 Sharkusai, so 1 Sharkusai, triple Xiamen, we have the 1 Deer Note, triple Foxy Tune, double Ogre Dance, and double Emergency Teleport. So Xiamen, pay 600 life points, search your deck for a P.U.N.K monster, pretty straightforward consistency card, definitely your best normal summon in the deck. We have Sharkusai, which will allow you to pay 600 life points to fusion summon a P.U.N.K monster from your extra deck, which you will use as a consistency card alongside Foxy Tune. So this one searches and this one allows you to fusion summon. We've got Deer Note, which has 2 main effects. Deer Note can reveal itself and another P.U.N.K in hand. You get to special summon 1 and send the other to the grave. Very good way of summoning itself out to the field in a pinch if you just happen to open up with it. Its more important effect is when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to bring back any P.U.N.K monster of your choosing. So that is significantly more important because it single-handedly enables your zombie vampire play, which we will talk about. Well, you've already seen the combo in the gameplay, but we'll talk about it later anyways. We got Foxy Tune, which is essentially a 1-card combo. So Xiamen is a 1-card combo, and Foxy Tune is 1-card combo, because basically this card will discard itself and another card to special summon a P.U.N.K monster directly from deck to hand. Sorry, directly from deck to field. Ogre Dance will discard just itself to add a P.U.N.K monster from deck to hand, right? So this is just a consistency card. How the P.U.N.K combo actually works is you'll have one of 2 routes getting into it. Number 1, you'll go the Xiamen route, which is the more common route, because you got 3 Xiamen, double Ogre Dance, which is just more Xiamen, and you'll get 2 copies of Emergency Teleport, which will special summon a level 3 or lower Psychic monster from hand or deck it's going to be your Zeoman, right? So the more common route is you go for Zeoman, activate its effect, search for Foxy Tune. Foxy Tune then activates it, discard itself and another card to summon out your Deer Note and Zeoman into Chaos Ruler, blah blah blah. Right, so the end point of your P.U.N.K is Chaos Ruler. The other route you're going to go into it is if you only have Foxy Tune in hand, you do not have access to Zeoman, what you would do is you would use Foxy Tune's effect, discard itself and another card, summon Zeoman. Zeoman then activate its effect to search for Sharkusai, normal summon the Sharkusai, fuse it and the Zeoman to go into Rising Carp. Rising Carp then activates, tributing itself to summon a Deer Note and a Zeoman directly from deck, and there you go, there's your 3 and your 8 into your Chaos Ruler. And the fun thing about bringing out the Chaos Ruler with the Deer Note is that not only will you bring out the Chaos Ruler, you also get to revive a P.U.N.K monster back from grave, meaning you'll have another level 8 directly on the field, allowing you to go straight into the Zombie Vampire afterwards. So you get mill 5 off of your Chaos Ruler and mill an additional 4 off of your Zombie Vampire. This one allows you to add a card to hand, this one special summons one to the field as well. So you get an absolute ton of extension and your graveyard gets massively filled up all off of this combo, which has 11 1-card starters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was 11, sorry, I cut an Ogre Dance out, so now it's 10. But there's 10 1-card starters for you to go into that crazy play. And that's not even considering the number of 2-card starters, even if you were to open up the likes of Sharkusai or Deer Note, or opening the consistency of like 1 card and getting negated and whatever. So there's tons of ways of going into it, but there's at least 10 cards by themselves. You just pick up that card, bang, you've got the full play, right? Which is really good. That's something that Zombies inherently doesn't have, which is why P.U.N.K is so important in this deck, in my opinion. And now we got the zombie package. So the zombie package we're playing is a little bit different to most people's zombie packages. We're not playing like the Gozuki and the Mizuki and the Shao Z, even though that card's actually pretty good. What we're doing is we're stripping it down to bare bones and what is actually going to be significantly useful, rather than a bunch of one-offs that may be useful here and there. So starting off with the Shinobi Necro, this is almost kind of like the main card, because it's the one that gives you the most combo potential. It's not the boss monster, obviously, that would be Ballardrock, but Shinobi Necro is one of the actual primary benefits of being able to even play these zombie cards and the zombie strategy in general. Basically, it's a level 2 tuner. It is a zombie monster, it is a dark monster. Whenever this card is banished from the graveyard, you get to special summon it directly from the banish pile, and then it gets shuffled into the deck after it leaves the field once again. So this card is absolutely amazing alongside your Bystials or alongside your Chaos Ruler, which will banish it from the graveyard to get you extenders on board. So this card is absolutely nutty. Being a level 2 tuner, it enables all of your level 8 and level 10 synchro plays. Being a dark, it can help out with your Bystial Rebellion for going into a full power Chaos Angel. Being a level 2 enables it to go into Sprite Elf. It's just, this card does a little bit of everything, if I'm being honest. It really does. We got the One of Unizombie. I really don't like this card very much right now. It's not the starter it used to be. With Hulk being banned, there's only really so much you can do with this card and this card alone. So ultimately, yes, I have cut it to 1 because it is a nice card to hit off of Zombie Vampire. It's a nice card to hit off of Chaos Ruler if you still have your normal summon. But all in all, it's definitely not a card I want to see in my opening hand unless the rest of my hand is fucking cracked, right? So Unizombie, not the most powerful card right now. Definitely not. It needs a lot of resources around it to be useful. But again, do with that as you will. 3 Necro World Banshee, as well as 3 copies of Zombie World. I'm going to lump these in together because all Banshee does is banish itself from the field or graveyard to search for Zombie World and activate it straight to the field as a quick effect. Very useful. So Zombie World being activated as a quick effect is awesome. Zombie World, while it's face up, all monsters on the field become zombies and neither player can tribute summon except for zombie monsters. So that will really hurt Sword Soul. You need to have worms as fusion material. You need to have worms engraved to banish off of things like their Grandmaster, right? It shuts down Flounderies completely. They cannot play the game through Zombie World because they can't tribute summon. So never mind the fact that they no longer have any winged beasts in their field, they can't tribute summon, which is insane. It shuts down the likes of, it doesn't shut down Dragon Link, but it definitely hurts Dragon Link a lot because they can no longer go in the Romulus, they can no longer go in the Striker, they can no longer go in the Seals. So there's a lot of things in Dragon Link that it shuts down, but it doesn't completely stop the deck because they have a lot of generic shit that they can do as well. It does really hurt things like the Pisty as well, unless they're summoning back from the banish pile, because it means they can't really use Pisty. Just everything about it in general definitely really hurts Dragon Link a lot. It limits their plays quite substantially, which when you consider the fact you're also putting up a couple of interruptions every single time, it's usually enough to drive them into the ground. And tier limit decks as well. Tier limit decks really struggle to play through Zombie World because you're changing their typing and they no longer have the correct typing for their fusion summons. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of interactions with this card that are absolutely nuts. So Zombie World for sure is a top tier card. We've got the Ballardrock here. Ballardrock is the boss monster of zombies and is unironically one of the most powerful cards in this deck. I still think this card gets slept on. This card is absolutely fucking nuts. Basically, once per turn during the standby phase, if there's a field spell up, it gets to bring itself back from the graveyard every single turn in defense. That's amazing. It's a recurring level 8 at 0 cost. And then once per turn, you can activate each of the following effects once per turn. You can negate the activated effect that you're activating in response to, or you can banish a monster on the field or in the graveyard. You can do each of those once per turn, meaning this card has 2 negates baked into its very existence. And remember, considering Zombie World changes everything to zombies, it means you can use Ballardrock's effect in response to pretty much everything. And that covers it for these zombie cards. And the rest from here is just sort of extender engines that help out a little bit. We've got a tuning engine, which is 3 copies of tuning, 1 assault synchron, and 1 quick draw synchron. If you wanted to double up on assault, I would not blame you. That's not the button I meant to press. If you wanted to drop quick draw to go double assault, I would get that. I wasn't initially, but in hindsight, because we're running both the Chaos Ruler and the Zombie Vampire, maybe you do want to run more assault synchron purely from the perspective of hitting it off of either of those 2 cards. So that is definitely something I would consider, but it isn't something I was playing. Quick draw didn't come up enough for me to justify it in the deck, so I definitely think you can cut it. But it's not a bad idea either, right? So tuning is just nuts. Add any synchron tuner from deck to hand, and then mill the top card off the top of your deck, which is insane. Assault synchron can special summon itself by paying 700 life points, but you're locked in the synchros so long as it's face up. Being a level 2 dark tuner is just absolutely nuts. Plus, while this card's in the graveyard, if a face-up dragon synchro monster is banished or gets tributed, you can banish this card from the graveyard to special summon back that dragon synchro, which means you'll essentially get to recycle the usage of your Chaos Ruler several times over. Very, very good. And what else is there? We got the one-off Kelbeck. Agito is banned. The only one we've got is Kelbeck. It's a decent enough card to run at 1. You can put in more Gravekeeper cards if you want, but I'm not too big on him. I think Kelbeck by itself is fine. You don't have to play it, of course, just an extender. And that's pretty much the entire main deck. Yeah, bit of a mouthful, but honestly, the deck is an absolute blast. The only thing I would maybe look into changing would be the extra deck, which could use a little bit of refinement, right? So let's talk about it. First of all, we got our main Super Poly target, the Dragon Necro Never Soul Dragon. I was running this card at 2. What I will briefly sort of cut ahead and spoil, I would like to cut this to 1, and I would like to cut the Vampire Sucker to 1, and I would like to include additional Super Poly targets. Mainly Garura and the Mud Dragon. These are the 2 targets I would include in the stead of those 2 cards. I think that would definitely be a lot more powerful than the 2 Sucker and the 2 Dragon Necro. I think I didn't see Super Poly enough to justify having 2 of the same target. That would imply you're planning on using it multiple times throughout a duel, and that's very, very optimistic. So I think the versatility of having multiple targets is going to be significantly greater. And plus, I didn't anticipate that Vampire Sucker would not see nearly as much use in this deck as I had initially anticipated. And the fact that Sprite Elf can bring it back from the graveyard just further exemplifies that. So having just the 1 Sucker is not a problem at all, even though it is a very good card. So, Super Poly targets. This one is 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. Same attributes and same types. And any 2 zombies, which remember, because the whole field of zombies is going to be any 2 monsters essentially. Raising Cart we've already talked about. It's part of the Sharkusai route for summoning out your Chaos Ruler line. Basically attributes itself to summon any 2 punks with different names from the deck. Chaos Ruler, we've talked about time and time again. Everybody knows what this card does. Mill the top 5 cards of your deck, grab a light or dark among them and add it to your hand. You can also special summon it from the graveyard by banishing both a light and a dark. Crazy alongside something like your Shinobi Necro, and just generally really nice to have a recurring dark level 8 dragon, for sure. The Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon is also a stupidly solid Synchro Dragon. Basically, when summoned, you can bring back a level 2 or lower tuner from your graveyard, ideally your Shinobi Necro. Which is great for going into the likes of Sprite Elf, for the likes of a level 10. So yeah, just a lot of versatility, honestly, in that card. I really like the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Even just in and of itself, what you'll often do is you'll often use it as rank 8 material for a Harbinger or something of that description. So the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon is an absolute... I would say it's almost mandatory, to be honest. For sure. We've got our generic level 10s, we got Baron, Qing Ying, and Chaos Angel. Generic Omni negate once while face up, and once per turn you get to pop a card. Qing Ying will boost itself up and reduce all of your opponents by 100 attack and defense for every banished card. If it would be destroyed by a card effect, you get to banish a card from your graveyard instead. And if a card is banished while this guy is face up, you get to banish a card both from your opponent's field and from their graveyard. Chaos Angel, if summoned using both a light and a dark monster, will apply 2 continuous effects. Number 1, if you're using a light, all of your synchro monsters become unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects, which is pretty fucking huge. And dark, it protects all monsters you control from battle destruction. Both of those are ridiculously powerful effects. Also on summon it gets to banish a card, which is nice. Pep, we never really use Pep. I would be super tempted to replace it with another Link card. To be honest, I don't really super like this card in this deck, if I'm being real with you. I would definitely consider changing this guy out for either another Link card, like Masquerena, like Unicorn, something like that, something generic. That'll see more consistent use and access, that's for damn sure. Let's put it back in for now though, and we'll come back to that idea later. Pep's just a level 11 boss. Then we got the Hope Harbinger, which is a level 8 generic spell negate, of course, once per turn. Zombie Vampire, part of your primary combo, will mill the top 4 cards from both players' decks, and you get to choose any card among those 8, any monster among those 8, sorry, and special summon it to your field. Being able to hit some of your crazy resources off this, like a Unizombie, like a Magnomet, like a Baldric, just... It's hard to pass up. It is absolutely insane. I apologize if I seem a little bit tired. I'm trying to record a crazy amount of videos right now, so your boy is working overtime. We got the Vampire Sucker here, summoned using any 2 zombies. You can actually, something that people forget about with this card is that whenever you're tribute summoning a zombie monster, you can actually tribute your opponent's monsters, which makes your Ballardrock in hand an inherent out to the Noir. Now that is pretty nuts. It also, if a monster is special summoned from the graveyard once per turn, you get to draw a card, which is really nice just for generating resources. A follow-up, it's better in pure zombies than it is here. I would almost be tempted to cut it in this particular version. If you decided you wanted to go down a more generic sort of Link route, what I would maybe do is cut Sucker and Pep and go for maybe a Masquerena Avramax type deal. Maybe? You are playing the Sprite Elf package, and it does make it very easy to go into. This is definitely maybe what I would play instead. The Sucker didn't really come up enough for me to justify it, and I don't think it presents so much value that it outweighs a potential Masquerena play. But again, you do with that information as you will. Sprite Elf, of course, provides targeting protection to anything it points to, as well as bringing back a level 2 monster once per turn. And finally, we have the Goddess, which can be summoned using one of your opponent's monsters, which is just makes it an extra deck kaiju. And that's the full deck. So this, with the very minor alterations that I have suggested, especially to the extra deck, as well as maybe just the one additional Assault Synchron, this is ideally how I would play Bystial Zombies, Bystial Punk tuning zombies, whatever you want to call it, and it's a blast. So if you're a fan of zombies out there and you're looking for a way to play it, then this is definitely something I would recommend picking up, because it's really fucking good. Why not? But anyway, that wraps us up for this video. If you got this far, subscribe, like the video, join as a member if you want, and watch one of these other videos on screen now if you want to catch more deck profiles from us. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.